Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that's not just shaking up your workday. It's literally remaking our entire world. This is the hybrid revolution. And as we're about to see, this is way more than just a temporary fad.
All right, let's just cut to the chase with the big question. Is the 5-day office week really, truly over? The answer from the data? A resounding yes. And what's crazy is how fast this is all happening. I mean, way faster than anyone saw coming. Just look at these numbers. In just a single year, the slice of professional jobs demanding you be in the office full-time crashed from 83% down to 61%. That's a massive 22-point drop. That tells you everything you need to know. The market is bending to a whole new reality. Okay, so to really get a handle on this, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with why the 9 to 5 is over. Then we'll get into the tricky hybrid paradox. After that, we'll look at the new playbook for making it all work, map out your personal career path, and we'll wrap up by looking at how this whole thing is remaking, well, everything. All right, first things first, the old 9 to 5? It's pretty much dead. But here's the kicker. This revolution isn't coming from the top down. It's not CEOs making these calls. Nope, this is a full-on grassroots movement completely driven by what people, the workforce, actually want. And wow, this chart right here just shows you the huge disconnect we're talking about. A full 50% of people want a hybrid setup. Another 25% want to be fully remote. You add that up, and you've got 3/4 of the entire workforce wanting flexibility, while only 19% actually prefer being on site. The message couldn't be clearer.
You know, this has led to something really interesting. What started as the Great Resignation is now turning into the Great Reshuffle. It's not just people quitting anymore. No, it's way more strategic than that. People, especially top talent, are literally picking up and moving away from those old-school, rigid companies and flocking to the ones that offer real flexibility.
So you're seeing companies basically split into two camps on how to handle this. On one hand, you've got the flexible model, like Cisco's, where employees get a lot of autonomy. On the other hand, you have the fixed model from places like Google, where they tell you which specific days to come in. It's that classic trade-off, right? Total freedom versus easier coordination. Okay, but all this flexibility, it's not some magic fix. It actually creates this thing called the hybrid paradox. It's this messy middle ground where, you solve one problem but accidentally create a bunch of new ones, especially now that the office isn't the automatic center of gravity anymore. And get this, here's one of the really surprising downsides. A huge Microsoft study found that when we went remote, collaboration between different teams dropped by 25%. Basically, we started sticking to our own teams more. And that's a huge problem because that's where innovation dies.
And that kind of isolation leads to a really dangerous trap. It's called proximity bias. It's a natural human thing, right? We tend to give more attention and opportunities to the people we see face to face. And in a hybrid setup, that's a recipe for disaster. It threatens fairness and can seriously hurt the careers of anyone not in the office.
So when you put it all together, you're left with these big core challenges. You've got logistical headaches, new ways for communication to break down, the huge question of how to build a culture, and, maybe most importantly, the very real human cost of burnout and feeling isolated.
Okay, so that's the problem. The big question is, how do we actually fix it? Well, the smartest companies out there are already writing a new playbook. And it's all about combining new tech with a completely fresh take on leadership.
And you know what's at the center of this new playbook? Something you might not expect. AI. Yeah, the whole conversation is flipping. We're moving away from seeing AI as this scary job killer and towards seeing it as a partner, something that can actually make work more human, not less. Just think about it. AI can handle all that tedious stuff, transcribing meetings, figuring out who's doing what, sorting out schedules. And that frees us, the humans, up to do what we do best, solving complex problems, thinking big, and actually connecting with each other. But look, technology is only half the battle. The other half is leadership. The old school micromanager, that's over, done. The future belongs to what we could call the green flag boss. This is a leader who is crystal clear in their communication, who goes out of their way to include everyone, who cares about results, not just the hours you put in, and who actually makes well-being a priority. Okay, that's the big picture. But let's bring it back down to you. What does all of this mean for your career? let's build your personal roadmap for not just surviving, but actually thriving in this new world. And make no mistake, the stakes here are incredibly high. The World Economic Forum is predicting that 44% of our core job skills are going to be disrupted in just the next 5 years. This means nearly half the skills we rely on today are about to change. This is absolutely not the time to just stand still. To really succeed now, you need this new mix of skills. Of course, the hard skills, digital fluency, understanding data, that's just table stakes now. But here's the interesting part. As AI handles more of the technical grunt work, our uniquely human skills are becoming priceless. Things like emotional intelligence, being adaptable, and just clear communication. So think of this as your personal skills checklist for what's coming. Are you actively working on your emotional intelligence so you can build trust when you're not in the same room? Are you flexible enough to roll with the punches? And crucially, can you learn to work with AI as a partner, not an enemy? These are the questions that are going to define who gets ahead. All right, for our last section, let's zoom all the way out. Because this whole revolution isn't just about our jobs. It's fundamentally rewiring our cities, our economy, even the very fabric of our society.
Just let this number sink in for a second. $557 billion. That is how much value U.S. office buildings have lost in just a handful of years. This isn't just some market dip, folks. This is a seismic, once-in-a-generation revaluation of what commercial real estate is even worth. And a number that big, it creates huge ripple effects. Think about it. Empty office towers mean way less tax money for cities. That forces some really tough decisions. All that money we used to spend on lunch downtown, it's shifting to our local neighborhoods. And on a social level, there's a real risk here. As the office disappears as that central gathering place, we could become more isolated. And all of this leaves us with one final and I think really powerful question. The hybrid revolution, it's here. It's not a debate anymore. The only question now is how we build it. The choices we're all making right now, as companies, as leaders, as individuals, they're going to decide the answer to this massive question. Are we building a future that's more connected, more fair? Or are we accidentally building one that's more isolated and divided? The final chapter hasn't been written yet,